Now, earlier this year, football lost one of its greatest trailblazers. Back in 1997, Uriah Rennie became the first black referee to officiate in the Premier League. His legacy lives on with a growing number of black officials working at the top level. And as part of Black History Month, we celebrate the life of Uriah Rennie.
Who was Uriah Rennie?
My inspiration and my role model.
Really good referee, but a really great human being.
Calm.
Big personality, great icon.
His career and his life has inspired many.
He was my big brother.
Uriah Rennie is and remains the epitome of strength through adversity.
I'm aware of the game and I'm aware of my responsibilities.
I remember seeing him for the first time. I remember being captivated.
Interesting that you never see referees, black referees, so it was like, so where's he come from?
Uriah Rennie is today's referee.
He was a trailblazer.
Uriah was a big personality.
He was so powerful in his own image that it just diffused it.
He said stop. You kind of stopped.
Them going up against him, there was only going to be one winner.
And because he showed us it was possible, we now believe that we can do it.
His spirit will live on in my life for as long as I'm alive as well.
Uriah Rennie was the first, but not the only.
We're going to have that full feature coming up for you in its entirety, which was put together by our reporter Chris Reedy. You've been an integral part of this wonderful feature and a tribute as well, really, haven't you? Goodness me, a lot of hard work went into that.
Yeah, absolutely, Hayley, but a couple of guys who've been as important in getting this together as Joel Mannix and Aji Ajibola from the support group BAMREF. And guys, just before we get into Uriah Rennie and the tribute and his legacy, can you just give us a little explanation about BAMREF and the work that you guys are doing?
Yes, good morning, Chris. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here this morning. But I think it's important to recognise the reason why BAMREF was formed and initially is to lead the advocacy for more inclusive culture within the refereeing space. But also, as we highlight Uriah this morning, it's also important to understand that referees do need support. And BAMREF was put together really to provide that support to referees from black and brown communities so that they can obviously be their authentic self while enjoying the sport they love. But more importantly, it's really to drive that representation at the very, very top of the game to emulate the likes of Uriah Rennie going forward within refereeing.
And Joel, you're a referee yourself, you're both referees. Why is BAMREF so important to you?
BAMREF's important because growing up and going through refereeing, there wasn't much support for me. So people that are coming up through the game that represent and look like me and, you know, others, black and brown, we need someone to kind of help them along the way because there are some hardships which do come to them and we just kind of guide them through that process.
And look, we're here this morning to celebrate this man, a trailblazer, the first. 1997 is when he made that first appearance in the top flight. How big a moment was that for the black community and for refereeing in general, Aji?
Massive, absolutely massive. I think for anyone who plays the game as footballers, we all want to play the game as a player. But when you see Uriah Rennie on the screen actually leading those teams out as a referee, you start to believe yourself that, wow, I can do that as well. I can be that person. You start to see it, you start to believe it. So it really, really got the community celebrating, as we always do when you see someone of colour in a leadership role, and refereeing is a leadership role, and to be doing it at the Premier League at the very highest level of the game really, really was a moment of pride for the whole community.
And Joel, I think we all saw the pictures of the funeral in Sheffield, really vastly attended, but you were both there. How was that day?
It was really busy. It was, you know, it was people outside, there was TV cameras. It was nice to see that people came to celebrate him. And I've often said we celebrate people more in death than in life. But it was just for us to go to Sheffield, to spend the day, you know, whilst he was outside speaking to the other referees from growing up that were with him, that partook, hearing the stories. It was a wonderful day.
A lot of people tried to speak to Yuri kind of when he was alive, Aji, you know, to get him to events, to talk about his experiences, but he was a very private person. I was in a discussion yesterday in a panel where people talked about, people don't like to talk about their suffering a lot, I guess, and we don't really know if he ever did, but do you have a hunch maybe as to why Yuri, after he finished refereeing, was so private and didn't really talk about his experiences that much in public?
I'm sure I speak for a number of referees that look like me in Joe up and down the country that we just want to be referees. we're in the sport just like everybody else because we love the sport. And I think when you go through that journey and you're having to overcome extra layers of barriers just because of who you are and the colour of your skin predominantly, it does create trauma. And those traumas live with you. They're almost like battle scars that lives with you for a very long period of time. And if you're not supported, which is one of the reasons why we're very passionate about the project at BAMREF, you're not supported, not looked after properly, I think you often want to put that behind you and not want to re-engage and relieve those traumas. So I fully understand why Uriah, once he's done the magnificent work that he did throughout his career, possibly not want to then engage and relive those traumatic experiences that he would have lived through while he was still achieving his goals of being very, very first, but also at the very highest level of the game.
And I think that reason is why it was so important that we all got together and made this to tell his story, because he was a private person. I guess something else he wouldn't have had is that kind of mentorship, or at least a mentorship with someone that looked like him at the top level. Sam Allison, who has refereed in the Premier League, made his first appearance in 2023, spoke really candidly in the VT about how Uri was almost a bigger brother to him and mentored him through it. And that was something I didn't know until I went down and sat with Sam. How important is it for our referees, whether it be Sam Allison in the Premier League or guys that you are mentoring and speaking to, starting off at grassroots, how important is it that they have these mentors like Uri? Joel?
Well, Sam was fortunate, as I said, to be mentored by Uriah, the big brother, as he calls him. Obviously, in the Premiership, week in, week out, looking and knowing what to expect. So, as I said, it was brilliant from that aspect from Sam. But there are other referees which are coming up which don't know what to look for, which don't know what to do as, how they approach the game, what to be said in the game, how to react, how to, speak to management, how to speak to the board level. So this is where we come in and we coach them, and then we explain to them, this is the ethos, this is the way forward. That's what we do.
And also, Chris, just to sort of recognize, I think we all know that mentoring is a significant part of any business industry, really. To get the future next one along, they require mentoring. And I think when you have a professional culture within referee where there aren't that many people at the very highest level, it's important that we recognise that as an industry and we start to create that processes in place that enables the next generation of black and brown officials, male or female, to believe that they can be. And that's why mentoring is so significant for us at BAMREF.
I think one of my favourite parts of the video is where Uriah is in the middle of Roy Keane and Jason McAteer. As mentors, would you recommend that to one of your younger refs to kind of manhandle Roy Keane like that?
Maybe if you're Joel. If you're as big as Joe, that might be an option. But I think the world is always changing. Football's changing. Expectations are changing. And we know Uriah had his own personal skills as to how he can manage situations like that. But I think from a other referee, you've got to see what your assets are, and what the expectations are of match officials. And unfortunately, these days, it's manhandling players, not necessarily something we recommend, but there are other methods that you can use to diffuse situations so that you're not having to get into that personal space, unless you're Joe, of course.
No, I think he was confident. He was confident. He knew what he was. He knew his presence. He had his awe. He had a rapport with the players. You can see that. They respected him. He respected them. So it was the case of, the tackle that's gone in, Roy Keane's upset. He's gone in and he's like, calm down, Roy. Do you know what I mean? You're going to get yourself into trouble. I think Roy, when he saw him, must have said, oh, it's Uriah, so it's fine. So it works, but it works wonderful.
Absolutely, and I think that's what Jason McAteer said. He said he was the only one, or the only referee he thought who could have managed that situation as he did, and I completely agree. Look, but to both of you, I guess, Uriah retired in 2008. It wasn't until 2023 that we saw Sam Allison, so the next black referee obviously had Akil Howson on the line, but in terms of being in the middle, we didn't see that until 2023. Why do you think it took so long?
Well, I think fundamentally we've got to accept, and I'm sure the powers that be do, that the systems within refereeing weren't necessarily created for people that look like us. The promotion systems, the methods of looking at what good performance looks like wasn't necessarily there to really accelerate journeys for officials that are from our kind of community. And I think this is where the partnership with the FA and the PGMO over the last few years has made a significant difference to the refereeing culture and the inclusiveness that is now being really practiced within refereeing, which is why we're seeing more officials of colour coming through the system coming through the game, and hopefully there won't be such a gap between Sam Allison or whether he's now the pipeline like Ruben Ricardo or Farai Hallam coming through the system, or Sonny Gill. There won't be such a long gap between their careers and other officials that are now coming through the system.
What do you think, Joel? Do you think the work that you're doing at grassroots level, do you see there being an improvement in the next 5-10 years? Do you think we'll see more than just Sam come through?
Well, we're looking for improvement all the time. You know, we've got the Core X program, which we're working quite well with, the 248 program, different programs which we're working for. Obviously, we're still looking for ladies of colour, men, children. You know, one of my favourite sayings, if you can't see it, you can't be it. In 2008, when he gave up and I saw him saying this is his last game, I then said to me, oh, you know what, I could do this. You know, some of my friends in the change room said I was a bit crazy because they thought, you being a referee, how are you going to handle the abuse? And I was like, no, I think I could go and do this. And, I went on and had quite a good, successful refereeing career. But as I said, there's different things in the game that are coming up, the 243, different things so people can get involved and they can say, yes, this is what we want to do.
And just sort of adding, I think what is really particularly good for the game now is there is real good engagement with the Football Association and PGMO, and they've really bought into the work that we're doing at BAMREF to try and create that much more inclusive refereeing family that reflects the game and those that are playing the game. And that never happened when Uriah was officiating, hence the gap. So now I'm working together with the community and driving some of those initiatives that Joe alluded to, whether it's specific programs like a Core X, or whether there are campaigns like the 243 campaigns to really open up the refereeing space to females of colour, to say refereeing can be for you as well. Working hand in hand or hand in gloves with those big organisations will really help hopefully prevent the future and avoid nuances like 13 or 15 years before you get one black referee to another refereeing at the Premier League level.
Absolutely. Joel and Aji, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Sky Sports News. We showed you a little preview of our Uriah Rennie celebration video, but you can watch that on YouTube and it's going to be running on Sky Sports News all day today as well.
Gentlemen, Chris, thank you very much indeed.